I just got home from my friend's funeral about 25 minutes ago. I have never cried in front of so many people I didn't know before. I recognized his family and our other friends, of course, but there were so many kids from my high school there. I assume they read the newspaper report. Young man found lacerated in his bedroom. No suspect found. It was all over our local newspaper. It must have been very shocking to them. He was the second one so far in our graduating class to die. The first one was drug-related, kept pretty quiet. This one, however, has been the talk of our town for about a week now. I guess people were just curious. The death left so many unanswered questions in everyone's heads. The cops couldn't figure out just what exactly happened to him. I wanted to tell them what I know, but I don't think they'd believe me. So I decided to put it up here because maybe someone here could help me understand what happened. Also, most of you are probably more open to what I witnessed. So last month, me and a couple buddies were drinking and watching some TV, bored out of our minds. I say bored because we were watching reruns of the game show Press Your Luck. You know, no whammy. Anyway, eventually one of our friends put up the idea of the website Omegle out there. We thought we were so original going on Omegle drunk. We were laughing our asses off, spouting insults and pressing next before the person could respond. The friend in charge of pressing the next button, the friend who died, would always stop on attractive girls and flirt. You know, the usual Omegle shit. It was stupid, pointless fun. I remember we had just spouted off insults and my friend hit next. The next screen that came up was white. My friend almost hit the next button but hesitated. Through the speakers, you could hear a low humming sound. It sounded like an air conditioner. "Hello?" my friend said, with his finger hovering over the enter key. We all sat staring at the screen for a bit, none of us thinking of reaching over and nexting away the strangeness. I couldn't understand it all why, but with every second, the uneasiness in me grew. Finally, my friend hit the next button. However, when the next screen appeared, the same low hum could be heard. This time, in place of the white screen, there was an image of an ordinary bedroom. It was very dark, so you couldn't see much of the room. All we could see was lit up by what I assume was the computer screen. The shot included a bed and a little dresser off to the right side of the room. Okay, so the person had left their computer. No big deal. The mystery was solved and my friend hit next. But every next was met with the same dark room and the strange humming noise. I was really uneased by this point, and finally, after hitting next one more time, a girl appeared in the dark room, which all made us jump a bit. The girl had very dark black hair that seemed to mix with the darkness of the room, but other than that, she looked like an ordinary 18 to 20-year-old girl. My friend, who was at the keyboard, smirked and greeted the girl. She seemed to notice because she jerked her head in his direction and smiled. When I say smile, I mean teeth showing, like you would for a school picture. It was very eerie looking, as you could imagine. She had her head cocked back a bit and to the left, so it looked as if she were staring him down. He turned pale white and just sat there, staring back. We were all freaked out. We didn't want this girl to look at us. At least, I didn't. She never broke the stare, though. My friend finally just slowly closed the lid of the laptop, eyes locked with the girl almost all the way down. We all just sat in silence for a few seconds before we burst out laughing. We all joked of how she must have been on heavy drugs or something. She really liked me, my friend boasted with a chuckle. We went back to watching game shows for a bit before we all parted ways that night. Everything was fine and pretty uneventful for about a week or two. Early this month, my friend, who had been stared down by the strange woman, texted me, saying how he thought he'd seen that smiling girl while he was walking around at the mall. He said he was in line to get some food when he glanced over his shoulder and saw a girl grinning at him from across the food court. He said he blinked, and she was gone. He wasn't too concerned with it, as he said he was high at the time. So then, about a week later, he called me really late at night, waking me up. He had sounded pretty urgent, saying he thought he heard something in his kitchen. I had gotten a call like this before from him when he had gotten too high and he thought his grandma was at his door. He was crying and blubbering. It was pretty funny. I began to talk, saying something about him being on drugs, when he hushed me and told me he had just gotten home from work and he wasn't on anything. Then, in a hushed tone, he said, "I'm putting the phone on speaker. Listen." And I heard the tone of him pressing the speaker button. At first, I heard nothing but his breathing and chuckled a bit, but before I could call my buddy out for overreacting, I heard a slight thump. It was followed by another thump that was a little bit louder. They sounded like footsteps, and whatever it was walking towards my friend's room. I could hear his heavy breathing, and then he whimpered out, "It's outside my room." I could hear a slight scratch on the door. He was breathing so loud at this point, it could definitely tell he was in there. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. I could hear my friend's breathing get less panicked, and then he said he thought it was gone and that he was going to check it out, followed by the sound of a door creaking open. It was silent for about a minute before he got back on and said, Sorry about that. The coast is clear. Thanks." And then he hung up the phone. The week after all this, everything seemed fine again until Friday. I was sick and decided to stay in. I was just messing around on the social media and Reddit when I got a message from my friend saying, "You're home on a Friday? Get your webcam, I have something to show you." I was hesitant, hoping it wasn't him having a party and trying to brag by showing me. It was a stupid thought, but he had done it before. To my surprise, when we connected, it was him in his room, in the dark, only illuminated by his screen. He looked a bit pale, but nothing was really off. He said hi, and brought up when we had been on Omegle and seen that girl. He said that he had been seeing her around, and he was sure she was following him. I immediately started laughing. "You're kidding," I said to him, but his face stayed serious. He reached down and rolled his long sleeves up, revealing deep, crimson gashes all down his arm. He said that he'd woken up the night before, and she was in the corner of his room, staring at him with that big, toothy smile. He said he blacked out and woke up with gashes all in his arms and legs. And then he put his arm closer to reveal that she'd actually carved out the word "smile" over and over all down his arms. I was speechless. I thought my friend was crazy and was about to call him out when a familiar sound filled my ears. That humming noise from that night. It was so distinct. My friend began to cry as he slowly turned his head to the right, where the humming was coming from, and just when his eyes met whatever was in there, he smiled a huge grin, and the webcam feed went black. I closed out of the webcam app, extremely shook up, and went on the internet immediately to try to distract myself. On Facebook, I saw I had one new message from my friend. All it said was smile, with that colon smiley face. They found him the next day with his whole body covered in gashes from head to toe. Although they never mentioned if the gashes all had said smile, like the ones he had shown me. During the funeral, he had a closed casket. Though, when I went up, I had to see what was inside. In his coffin, his face was frozen in a huge grin staring straight up. I needed to confirm what I had seen and pulled his sleeve up a bit. The word smile was indeed carved all over his body. That's really all I have, guys. I hope someone can explain what happened. Was it just the drugs he did, and did he do it to himself? Was he crazy? I hope he was crazy, because today at the funeral, in the entire crowd of unfamiliar faces, one stood out. It was a girl with black hair, and she was smiling right at me.